This is the tenderloin on Mark McGuire's steroids, dog. Whoa, 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 whoa. God damn. Oh. Whoa. Hey, dude. Oh boy. That is heavy.
I hung out in the most dangerous, drug-infested neighborhoods inside of what used to be the most dangerous city on planet Earth, Medellin, Colombia. These neighborhoods, which the locals call hoyas, literally meaning a hole or a ditch, make the slums in American cities look like relatively safe places by comparison. I've never seen anything like it. Thousands and thousands of burnt-out drug addicts openly selling and using Basuco, which, as you're about to learn, is South America's version of crack cocaine, except it's about 100 times dirtier than crack and 1,000 times cheaper. Hoyas like these are dotted throughout Medellin and are a vital source of income for the urban pandillas, or the gangs, who have taken over the criminal rackets in Colombian cities ever since the fall of Pablo Escobar and the kingpin era of the 1990s. This is the evolution of the criminal underworld in Colombia.
We're in Medellin, obviously the birthplace of international cocaine trafficking. This is where it all began. Pablo, the Ochoas, Gotcha, all of the biggest drug lords that everybody knows about, they populated these different neighborhoods, and this was where they took the work, they refined it, and then they exported it to the rest of the world. And now, 40 years later, that business model is completely gone from this city. I'm not exaggerating when I say that in Medellin today, there are no cartels or drug trafficking groups who export cocaine to the rest of the world anymore. They keep it here in the city to sell out locally. There's a huge demand for cocaine and for Basuco in the city. And so what they have now, instead of drug cartels, they have pandilleros, they call them, different gangs that control different sectors of this gigantic city, and they trap. They buy cocaine wholesale from the cartels that live in the mountains. They bring it to the city, they chop it up, they bag it up, and they sell it to tourists, they sell it to drug addicts, and they sell it to local people who just use cocaine recreationally. And, you know, I think they do pretty well. I mean, we went down to El Centro yesterday, and it looked like a Michael Jackson's Thriller video. I mean, drug addicts are everywhere in Latin America and definitely in Medellin, but there are no more drug cartels as we knew them from back in the era of Pablo Escobar. It's remarkable.
But despite this anarchy, this junkie dystopia, the city of Medellin overall has managed to transform itself and become one of the safest big cities in Latin America. How is this possible? I had to go down there and find out for myself. And before we get started, as usual, please remember to leave a like and a comment on this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We deeply, deeply appreciate it. Okay, listo, mis parceros, vámonos.
Medellin is the birthplace of international cocaine trafficking.
Once that Basuco goes into the city, then the people that are in charge of that are the local gangs. And since they can't traffic cocaine to the States, they gotta settle for trafficking cocaine here in the city, in the neighborhoods.
They've pushed all the addicts and the sellers into small little pockets. They've created zones for vice.
Even though it's very chill and very safe, yeah, people still get disappeared left and right.
Medellin, Colombia. My. Truly one of the great cities on earth. Part of me cringes to say it, especially now that it's become such a destination for passport bros, creepy sex tourists, and annoying digital nomads who drive everyone's rent up but still have the nerve to haggle over prices. I was here first, motherfuckers, way back in 2009, before the secret got out. It's no surprise why everyone loves this place. It's aesthetically gorgeous, the weather is mild and perfect basically all year round, the natives are some of the friendliest, most accommodating people I've met in my lifetime of travel, and of course, the tits, and the ass, and the faces. Colombians were recently ranked #1 as the world's most beautiful people. And it's always been that way, actually. It's just that this city went through an era. From the mid-1970s until Pablo Escobar was killed in late 1993, Medellin, Colombia was the heartbeat of the international cocaine trade. To be sure, there were cartels in other cities, of course, Barranquilla, Santa Marta, and the infamous Cali cartel in the south of the country, but nobody made an impact quite like Medellin. This is where the business began. The natives of Medellin, known as Paisas, are a distinct ethnic group that descend from Andalusia, Spain, and are a mix of North African, Basque, and Sephardic Jewish people from Eastern Europe. It's been said that back in the 15th century, Spain exiled many of its Paisa criminals to their South American colony of Colombia, to the province of Antioquia, and that is how the culture of criminality was bred into the men of Medellin. I don't know how true that is, but it would sure explain the bandido culture that has been present in Medellin from the beginning. After all, Peru, Bolivia, and Venezuela also grow coca leaf, but it was the Paisas of Medellin who took this leaf and made it a global cocaine phenomenon. On our first day in Medellin, our guide brought us up to the infamous Barrio Pablo Escobar, the hillside neighborhood that Pablo funded and built for poor and working-class Paisas back in the mid-1980s.
All right, so we're here in Barrio Pablo Escobar. This was the neighborhood that Pablo Escobar built with his drug money back in the day. And it's just one of these things that's way set back. We're super high up right now. I'm looking down onto the city of Medellin. So they told us this barrio was built in 1985. That's when they started work. That's when Pablo was running for governor of Antioquia state, where Medellin is located. And, you know, he probably only invested $50–100 million to build this entire hillside out into this working class neighborhood that you have now. It would make that every day, $50 million. And according to our guide, it's not even a dangerous neighborhood anymore. That's gone, literally. Like, I'm in the middle of what used to be one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Our guide told us back in the day, we couldn't just be out here like this, you know? It's incredible the 180 this city has done.
At the height of the Medellin cartel, neighborhoods like Barrio Escobar were staging areas for cocaine manufacturing, packaging, and preparation, before the coke made its journey to the United States and Europe. Remember, the Medellin cartel was just an affiliation of different drug trafficking gangs, one of the strongest being Escobar's. But there was also the Ochoa brothers, Carlos Leder, Jose Gacha, and many other lesser-known but incredibly rich and powerful groups who controlled different sections of Medellin. Back then, each of these poor neighborhoods dotting the hillsides of the Antioquia Valley was filled with cocaine labs. Labs is just a fancy way of saying kitchens inside of residential houses where the drug gangs completed the process of crystallization, converting the base powder, or base, into the finished product of cocaine. Besides these urban labs, the traffickers also had warehouses to stash the freshly packaged cocaine and trucks to transport it out of the city when it was time to load it onto a plane or a ship en route to its final destination. It's wild to think that all of the billions of dollars generated by the Medellin cartel in those years began in poor neighborhoods like these. And that is why, when things really began to unravel for the cartel in the late 1980s, neighborhoods like Barrio Pablo Escobar became war zones. The paramilitary group Los Pepes, funded by the Cali cartel and with the support of the American CIA, pulled daily incursions into these barrios, raiding and burning coke labs and stash houses, and driving the homicide rate to one of the highest in the world. Dozens and dozens of people were killed on a daily basis in Medellin back then. But nowadays, things have completely changed for neighborhoods like Barrio Pablo Escobar.
This is like a favela in many ways. It's got its own neighborhood watch. It's got its own people that run the barrio, the tiendas where they sell drugs, they sell a lot of weed, they sell a lot of tusi, which is coke mixed with MDMA. It's like pink cocaine. So yeah, they're still getting money here. But what our guide, Alejandro, was telling us is that a lot of the gangs that run this neighborhood, they police themselves. So for example, when the Venezuelan migrants started really coming here about 10 years ago, they were doing a lot of extortion, a lot of killing of innocent people. And they say, no, al rio, to the river for you. So they basically cut these guys up and they throw them in the river.
Today's episode is brought to you by CashApp. We love CashApp. We use CashApp exclusively to send and receive money. And we've checked the demographics of this podcast. we know you love it too, huh? If you didn't know, Cash App is more than just a safe way to send and receive money. With the Cash App card, you get tons of perks without any hidden fees. Think early access to concert pre-sales like Kendrick Lamar and Sabrina Carpenter. Yeah, because that's who I go to see, Sabrina Carpenter. Plus discounts on everyday purchases at brands you're probably already spending money on. It also keeps your money safe by automatically flagging suspicious transactions and letting you lock your card instantly if it's ever lost or stolen. Spend with confidence with the Cash App card today. And for a limited time, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash, for real. Just download Cash App, use our exclusive referral code, CashApp10, that's the number 10, in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Listen, I'm no mathematician, but that is a double up. That is 100% gain on your money. Terms do apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Discounts provided by Cash App, A Block, Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Pablo Escobar himself and the bad old days have become a distant memory, and residents of this barrio have turned him into a tourist attraction.
So they've turned this area into like a museum. Like Colombians used to be ashamed of their past. They used to be ashamed of all the drugs and the violence. It was something you weren't supposed to talk about in polite company. And now it's like a tourist trap. I'm here chilling with statue of Pablo. Reminds me of Hollywood, what they're doing with museums of movies and shit like that. We're in the age of nostalgia. So right now we're in this little shrine to Pablo with all these pictures. We got letters that he wrote to his lovers, to his family. And this was only 40 years ago that this guy was setting off bombs in El Poblado. His sicarios were killing literally tens of thousands of people a year. Many innocent people got killed. This was like a mass murderer. And here we are celebrating him. And it's not just us. There's tourists from all over the world that are popping in here. But Colombians are good business people. They're like, yeah, we have a fucked up past, but let's take advantage of it. Let's make some money off these stupid fucks who come here and like us.
Medellin as a whole has become one of the safest big cities in Latin America. Tourists, tech companies, and international investment have flooded into the city over the past 10 years. And the Medellin drug cartel as we knew it, as the world knew it, that's gone too. Now, of course, there are still drug capos who live in Medellin, no doubt. But none of the cocaine that leaves Colombia for foreign markets is prepared or launched out of this city anymore. It just doesn't happen. These days, most of the cocaine laboratories in Colombia are located in the southern regions of the country, in the departments of Putumayo and the Valle de Cauca. These remote swaths of land are controlled by Colombia's most powerful guerrilla armies, the ELN and the FARC, who at one time were left-wing revolutionary groups fighting the Colombian government, but have since transformed into the country's largest drug cartels. It is in these distant regions, largely impenetrable by the federal government, where the majority of the coca leaf is grown. I'm going to go into more detail about this in another video, but here's the basic process of how the coca leaf gets harvested and turned into cocaine. Step 1. Coca leaf is grown on private land owned by small and medium-sized farmers who hire laborers to pull the mature coca plants during harvest season, which takes place every 3 months. And check this out, it takes about 600 pounds of coca leaf to make just 1 kilo of cocaine, so there's never a shortage of work and the farmers are constantly planting new coca leaf crops. Step 2. Now that all the coca leaf has been stripped from the coca plants, it's time to make the cocaine paste, or the base, the base. Most of the coca leaf farmers are also experts in this process and have cocaine paste laboratories located on their properties. Now pay attention, because this is where the cocaine economy bifurcates into 2 distinct worlds. Listen as our friend Alex, who used to work for a time in one of these base laboratories, describe the process of turning the coca leaf into cocaine paste. It's a dirty, laborious process.
Once the raspachines, they bring the weighed leaves to this area, it's like a big old bathtub made out of wood. They start putting all them leaves in there. And then what you do is you have the weed eater guy. I went through that process. That was like my favorite one. You're just in there weed eating.
Yeah, just grinding it down.
Yeah, just grinding it down to as fine as you can. While you're weed eating, there's another guy in there that's putting all types of chemicals in there, and then he walks around barefooted just like mixing it.
For people that think that when they're sniffing good cocaine, like 100% pure, explain what
it's 100.
What you dump in to make cocaine.
Yeah, it's 100. You're sniffing 100% of pure crap. After I started going to these cocoa labs, I was like, oh man, I can't believe I'm sniffing that, because they gasoline, the ácido sulfúrico, and a lot of chemicals, even cement.
What's the purpose of putting cement?
The point of all that is because that does something to the leaves or to the plants to be able to prepare it to take out the merchandise. Because once all that's done and once all that, they start putting that in these big old plastic containers, big size plastic containers with more chemicals and the gasoline. That's where the real gasoline's in. And they put that in there for days. And then within a few days within a few days, that starts extracting the real cocaine. That liquid turns into some kind of pasta, some kind of like syrup, like some type of syrup, and then that syrup starts getting harder and harder, and then they put it into these other special buckets, and then it starts getting really hard, and then they're able to mold them.
This ad is for all you pouchers out there, like me. I'm a poucher now, thanks to these bad boys. Free. Look at them. Look at them. Take a good look, you guys. I do not podcast without one of these bad boys in my mouth. I got it in there. You can see it, okay? Free, F-R-E. These are the new gold standard in pouches, okay? They've revolutionized the game. I was not able to take nicotine for the longest. I couldn't use the competitors like Zyn. I definitely couldn't use like the old school chewing tobacco. It would make me sick, make me want to puke. They sent me a package of these, and I am now on the wagon. Free, and they're not afraid to give people what they want. I take the 3 milligrams, but they got these joints up to 15, okay? For those of you that have a high tolerance. I love Free, okay? These are the grittiest, coolest pouches on the market, and a hell of a diuretic. I just took a giant dump upstairs. Probably didn't even need to, but it cleaned me out when I put these things in. Boom. They get a little nicotine rush into my head. It wakes me up, keeps me focused. I can't recommend Free enough, you guys. I'm telling you, I'd probably promote this even if they weren't paying me. F-R-E, Free. And boom, you get 33% more pouches in a little canister like this than the leading competitive brands. It's also got Free's revolutionary moisture technology, more strength options, and a variety of delicious flavors. I use the mint and the wintergreen. They've also got, what do they have right here? Just plain normal Lush. Ooh, I don't know what Lush is about, but I got to try that. You can buy them in packs if you want to, okay? Or as a stocking stuffer, Christmas isn't too far away, you get the 6-pack. Go get them, guys. Free, F-R-E. And check this out. They got a deal for you guys. Get 20% off your first order at freepouch.com. That's F-R-E pouch.com, and use that code CONNECT at checkout. Once again, that's 20% off your first order at freepouch.com. You're going to get 33% more product at a comparable price point. That kind of value just makes sense for these guys. You got to use that promo code CONNECT at frepouch.com with the promo code CONNECT and get on the bandwagon, man. Free. Change your life. Yeah. Change your life, guys. You guys, whenever I log online, I do so using a virtual private network. If you don't know what a virtual private network or a VPN is, it safeguards your entire online activity. Once your device connects to the internet, all information is encrypted, concealing your online activity from snoopers and trackers. And here at The Connect, the only VPN we trust is SurfShark. SurfShark creates user-friendly privacy and security solutions to protect your data and privacy online. SurfShark enables you to virtually explore the globe, browse privately by encrypting your internet activity, and blocks ads and malware that may disrupt your experience. SurfShark offers enhanced privacy and security, bypasses geo-restriction to access blocked content, protects your data on public networks by securing public Wi-Fi connections, and offers a single subscription to secure all your devices simultaneously. I don't really have to explain to you guys why protecting your online activity is so important. It's because we're tracked everywhere, we're monitored everywhere, there's no privacy. Here at The Connect, we use SurfShark all of the time, whether we're booking flights and hotels internationally to get the best rates. We use it to upload content in the United States when we're out of the country. So besides protecting your privacy, it gives you enormous utility. If you like watching Netflix shows from Japan or Europe, you can log on to your VPN and tag yourself in Germany or Italy, wherever you want to watch content, and you'll be able to access shows that way. I can't recommend them enough, you guys. Go to surfshark.com/connectmitchell or use code ConnectMitchell at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Wow, that's a great deal, you guys. You need to be on a virtual private network. Why not use the best on the market? And that is Surfshark. So use that promo code ConnectMitchell to get 4 extra months free when you sign up for Surfshark. And check it out. They have a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. You have nothing to lose. This is the offer we have available exclusively for our listeners. Go hit that link, Connect Mitchell, for 4 extra months on Surfshark. So one more time, go to Connect Mitchell at checkout. That URL and code will be in the description of this episode. Thank you, Surfshark. Depending on the quality of the coca leaf, these cocaine paste chemists will add a disgusting amalgam of things, including gasoline and cement, to the batches in order to separate the chemicals that get you high from the actual coca leaf. Now, after all the chemicals have been strained and the cocaine paste squeezed out, those leftover chemicals stuck to the bottom of the large cooking pans will be scraped out, packaged, and sold as Basuco, which is what we saw on the streets of Medellin.
The Basuco is like the garbage that is left over that you can't turn into cocaine, okay? And they mix that sometimes even with ladrillo. Ladrillo is like bricks.
Explain how the leftovers, when the process of making the coke, is it the cocaine base? Is it those chemicals that fall off of it to become the Basuco, or is it the cocaine itself?
Yeah, it's the cocaine base itself that it looks too nasty, and you just can't turn it into cristalizador. You can't turn it into a good pure cocaine brick.
Okay, so the stuff's that's in that big plastic jug, everything that got poured in that you described earlier, right? From cement to gasoline to ethanol, whatever have you. It's the stuff that isn't white, the white stuff that comes out.
Exactly, what's left over.
It's the other stuff. Yeah, that's what becomes Basuco.
It's like when you make rice in a rice cooker.
Right.
And it gets burnt a little and you just get the good rice out, but there's always that
on the sides.
They're on the sides or on the bottom. There's always that burnt part that you have to scrape out.
Yeah.
That's Basuco. That would be the Basuco.
How do the dealers do it? Do you scrape up kilos of Basuco?
Yeah, exactly. They scrape that up and start adding it up, and then from that they make the Basuco, and then the Basuco is sent to las hoyas where the normal local drug addicts use it. Now, of course, there's a difference, right? Because you can go to la hoya and you can buy Basuco or you can buy base. Base is pure. It's like saying pure Basuco. Is white Basuco, basically. But base is before they break it down to make good Basuco, because you got garbage Basuco, you got good Basuco, and then you got la base. So the base, they also smoke that like crack. It's like actually crack. The only difference is that they don't use ammoniaco to separate it, or baking soda to cook it. Ammonia. They don't use none of that. They just sell it to them like that, and people use it.
Okay, so literally base is just the base cocaine if they didn't sell it to the crystallization labs.
Exactly.
I got you.
Exactly. And when you go to the hood and you wanna smoke Basuco or that, you can say, deme Basuco, or you can say, deme base.
Basuco, which literally means garbage, has become an epidemic in cities all over Latin America, especially in cocaine exporting countries like Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Venezuela. Basuco has become a completely separate but lucrative revenue stream for the drug gangs who have replaced the legacy cartels in these major urban areas.
Everybody's got their own way of selling their Basuco.
Right.
And it's like people buy this one here because that's the one I like. Yeah. So everybody's got their own way of personalizing their Basuco. Some people even scrape heroin into it to make it more addictive.
And its effects? Well, just take a look. It makes fentanyl look like matcha green tea. On the streets of Medellin, one hit of Basuco retails for about 1,000 Colombian pesos. That's like 25 cents US. I have never seen real-life zombies, but what I witnessed that afternoon in Medellin was literally The Walking Dead. But I digress. Step number 3. Now that the clean cocaine paste has been extracted, dried, and packaged, it's time to sell it to the narcos. The coca farmer will take his kilos of base to the local town, controlled either by the FARC or the ELN, and sell them to a broker working for any number of narco traffickers. Depending on the season and the supply, a kilo of good cocaine base sells for about $500 US. And now for the fun part, it's time to make the blow. This process is referred to as la cristalización, or the crystallization of the cocaine. This part of the supply chain is operated directly by the narco traffickers, who employ specialized cooks working round the clock in clandestine labs all over guerrilla-controlled territory, where the cocaine paste is finally converted into powder cocaine.
Are most of these cocaine crystallization labs in the same areas as the base cocaine labs?
Actually, the majority of these labs are in the urban areas, in places where you wouldn't even, I mean, maybe they have buildings that you go in, it looks like normal people live there, but they got a crystallization lab there. There are some that are in the jungle, but these are like by really big capos that they crystallize everything there, they export it there, they pack it there, they compress it there, and then they put them in the speedboats, right, and they go.
So those would just be like the guerrillas, who we now know are
guerrillas or the narcoterroristas, really big time deals. I'm talking about they're producing thousands of kilos.
Right. Right, but it sounds like the majority of narcos are now just independent and they're just doing it in like apartments. Like, would there be apartment buildings in Cali just down the road that have labs in them running right now?
Exactly.
Seriously?
There could be places where you wouldn't even know. As a matter of fact, sometimes since I worked in cocoa labs and I know that smell that comes from working there and in those crystallization labs, that there's a certain smell that you just I can't explain it to you. But I've been to some really rough neighborhoods where I get that smell and I know something is being cooked up there.
But for whatever reason, the narcos just don't have crystallization labs in the city of Medellin anymore. Maybe it's just too hot. Too much police and military presence protecting the foreigners who are flocking to that city in droves. If you're a narco, it's safer to operate your kitchens in territory under the protection of the guerrillas, who have the local government paid off and the logistics necessary to move your cocaine bricks from your labs and out of the country. Currently, the main exit points for cocaine leaving Colombia are south into Ecuador and on the Pacific coast out of the city of Buenaventura. The relationship between the narco traffickers and the guerrilla groups in Colombia is almost identical to Mexico, where the major cartels use their political protection and military power to facilitate drug shipments into the US and Canada on behalf of drug traffickers. And speaking of Mexican cartels, guess who's popped up in Colombia and taken over the cocaine trade?
¿Quién son los carteles más poderosos, más importantes, exportando lo más de Colombia?
En este momentico son el cartel de Sinaloa aquí en Colombia. ¿Qué sucede? De que el cartel de Sinaloa es uno de los carteles que está pesando ahorita acá, están patrocinando. O sea que el cartel de Sinaloa está patrocinando narcotraficantes. El cartel de Sinaloa está haciendo ya convenios con la guerrilla y sabemos de que el cartel de Sinaloa es acá en Colombia lo tenemos como gente despiadada, gente que no les importa coger la viejita, la abuelita y descuartizarla con hacha, con motosierra. Entonces esa gente acá en Colombia causan daño psicológico.
me that I have worked with a cartel, and I can tell you with authority that I am sure could be 90% correct that, yeah, the Cartel de Sinaloa is here.
What are the Sinaloa cartel? How are they involved?
Yeah, they're involved because they're an alliance. Because the Sinaloa cartel knows how to get drugs in easily in Mexico. They know how to get drugs over there very easily, much easier than a Colombian that is not from Mexico. So there's some type of alliance there. There's an alliance there. And the alliance is that they need the cocaine from Colombia and they need to send it to the States. So there has to be an alliance there.
You just can't get rid of these cats from Sinaloa, can you? I'm gonna go into that more in a separate video. But back to Medellin. This magical city that gave birth to drug trafficking now boasts an historically low homicide rate, and cocaine labs and cartels are nowhere to be found. What has replaced them are these pandillas, urban gangs who control the retail drug trade in their given territory. Right now, there's no less than 5 significant pandillas who control turf throughout the city's poorest sections.
The amount of drugs and drug trafficking and drug abuse that I've seen in this city is on par with anything that I've seen in Tijuana, anything I've seen in Guadalajara, but the violence is a fraction of what those places go through. There seems to be an agreement, a cultural agreement, a spoken agreement between the people that run the gangs here who peddle the drugs, that everything is to be respected, violence is to be kept at a minimum, and the tourists who come here are to be catered to professionally. And we've certainly seen that. What this city has managed to do, the city planners, the city government, we've learned, they've pushed all the addicts and the sellers into small little pockets of the downtown area, like it's the Tenderloin in San Francisco. So all of these different barrios in Medellin are completely pacified and clean. So it's kind of a remarkable, forward-thinking thing that they've done here. They've created zones for vice.
They're the ones who are profiting from the Basuco trade. And as you can see here, business is good. Very good.
Once that Basuco goes into the city, then the people that are in charge of that are the local gangs, the local armed robbers, the ones that handle the hoyas. Yeah. But though majority of those hoyas and everything are controlled and really ran by bigger groups that are owned by like maybe workers from the drug dealers. In other words, like they call them here lavaperros, you know, the guys that wash your cars for the drug dealers, the hitmen, the sicarios. Those guys are the ones that manage those little areas because they have their connections, and since they can't traffic cocaine to the States or smuggle cocaine over there because then they would be the capos, then they got to settle for trafficking cocaine here in the city, in the hoyas, and that's what they do in the neighborhoods.
As we passed through one of these barrios in downtown Medellin, I recognized it as a neighborhood where I had come to score drugs years ago, way back in 2009. I talk about it in the 3rd episode of The Connect. While I was in Colombia looking for investment opportunities to launder my drug money, I was introduced to a few guys who ran this neighborhood in Medellin. I went to one of their trap houses in the middle of the night, where a lieutenant for one of these gangs sold me bricks of weed and a half a kilo or so of cocaine.
So I walk outside my hotel and there's a taxi waiting for me, an old school yellow taxi, but the light is off on top. There's no service light going on. The back door of the car opens up and I jump in. And in the back seat, there's this huge Colombian dude built like a brick shit house. He hands me a blindfold and he's a nice guy. He smiles at me and he politely asks me, he says, "Could you please put this on, sir?" Now I'm a little worried. I'm like, dude, it's not that serious. I don't need to smoke weed this badly. So I turn to open up the cab to get out. Before I can do that, it starts driving off. So I'm like, fuck it, I guess I'm in this now. So I put the blindfold on and I really started to get nervous at this point. It was probably only a 10-minute taxi ride, but it felt like 3 hours. Finally, the cab comes to a stop and the guy sitting next to me tells me I could take the blindfold off. So I get out of the cab and I look around and I realize, oh, I'm in the barrio, I'm in the ghetto. There's little kids with walkie-talkies strapped to their chests, riding their bicycles around the streets. I glance up at the rooftops of the adjoining buildings and there's lookouts with guns kind of scanning for any sign of police. So now I realize I'm in a place where I really shouldn't be. I'm in no-go zone. So he takes me into one of these townhouses, and it's real nondescript. So I was taken upstairs to the second level of the house, and I'm introduced to the guy who I was on the phone with. This little 5'3" dude. He introduces himself and he says, "Hello, my name is you're good friends with I know good people." I said, "Yeah, very good people." He says, "Okay, what can I do for you?" And I said, "Well, I'm looking for some weed." And he said, "Okay." And he takes 2 gigantic garbage bags and he drops them at my feet. And they're stuffed with kilos and kilos of weed. And he said, "Do you want the good shit or you want the bad shit?" And I said, "Well, give me the good shit. How much is the good shit?" And he points to me and he says the peso amount. And I do some quick math and it's $50 American. $50 for 1,000 grams of weed. So it was like funny to me. I was like, give me 5 of them. I don't give a shit. $250 will get me 5 kilos of weed? Yeah, give it to me. And he goes, "Well, what about the coca?" And I was like, "Yeah, fucking give me a lot of that too. How much is that?" And he says, "Hang on." And he leads me into this room and there's a bunch of guys hanging around and he opens up a safe underneath his desk and he takes out a brick of cocaine and places it on the table. And I said, "That's good shit?" And he goes, "That's the best shit." So I said, "Okay, well, how much will a kilo of this be?" And he goes, "I'll give it to you for $2,000 American."
And now I'm back almost 20 years later and nothing much has changed. Besides selling Basuco to the dope fiends, many of these gang neighborhoods are also places where independent drug dealers can come to score weed, cocaine, and heroin at wholesale. There were lookouts on every corner, keeping an eye out for the cops and the opposition, just like there were in 2009 when I came here for the first time. That was a trip. But now in 2025, despite the drug trade being as active as ever, these gangs don't beef with each other like they used to. Everyone respects each other's turf. It's like an unspoken agreement.
So one of the huge distinctions between a city like Medellin and somewhere in Mexico like Guadalajara is there's no boss. There's no bosses anymore. It's drug trafficking clans that are neighborhood to neighborhood. But where that usually should cause massive amounts of violence because there's nobody at the top controlling things, it didn't work out that way in Medellin. Every group, every little gang seems to respect each other's turf. And there's no expansionist motivation like we see with cartels in Mexico. They're always trying to take each other's territory. Here it's, respect and just getting money.
There's plenty of money to go around, especially now with all these gringos moving to the city. In fact, there's so much foreign money flooding into Medellin now that a market has opened up for high-end American-grown marijuana.
One of the things this guy was telling me is now a lot of American weed is being sold in barrios like this one in Medellin. So they just intercepted a load coming from California at the Rio Negro airport. It was like 1,500 pounds of Cali high-grade bud. How wild is that? So now America is starting to export our drugs to Colombia. Talk about a change. Colombia was supposed to export their shit to us. It's wild.
Colombia is a country racked with problems: kidnappings, bombings, extreme poverty, and record levels of cocaine being manufactured and shipped to destinations all over the world. But you wouldn't know it if you came to Medellin, where the greatest tragedy are these neighborhoods containing tens of thousands of Basuco addicts. But even these hoyas are hidden from sight, tucked neatly away from the civilian population. And how are these gangs not beefing with each other? Perhaps it's because they're still controlled by the violent right-wing paramilitary groups who are an offshoot of the original Los Pepes and are the main opposition to the ELN and the FARC, and whose home base happens to be in the mountains outside of Medellin. But that's just my speculation. Maybe it's the collective trauma of such a violent past. Not even the gang members want to return to that era. Everyone just get your money and chill the fuck out. That seems to be the modus operandi these days in Medellin. All right, you guys, that's been today's episode. We're going to do some follow-up content from our time in Colombia, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on alerts so you get notified whenever we drop new videos. My name is Johnny Mitchell, and you've been watching The Connect.